Today I want to do my presentation on early America's history. So, in ancient America there was 10 different regions. Mainly, each of them had a specific, unique advantage, such as crop growth, natural resources, and so on. So the advantage of the Americas, although they meant to get to the Asias for trades like spice and silk, they did find lots of other natural crops and a good location next to the Caribbean with lots of spices, and then also later on being able to cross the ocean back to actually get to the Asias and next to the England colonies. So then also early civilizations such as the Incans, the Aztecs, those were massive civilizations that had already developed even before explorers reached there. And then also tribes, lots of Native American Indians were in each of these regions, and I'll go into that in the next slide. So here are the Native American tribes. So in each of these regions there was multiple different tribes, and so I've listed a couple. So in the Arctic areas, here we have the Inuit and Yupik, and the northeast, the Chickahominy and the Aroostook, and in the southeast, the Cherokee and Chickasaw. And then in the subarctic zone, we had the Dene, the Cree, and the Ojibwa, and northwest coast was the Qualayuki and the Chinook. And then in the Plateau region, we had the Yakima and the Nez Perce Indian tribes. And then the Great Basin, the Ute and Paiute tribes, and these are only a few of the many that are in each of these regions. This California area was the Mojave and the Yakuts. And then in the plains, which was one of the biggest of the regions, other than these, was the Blackfoot and Cheyenne Indian tribes, and in this region there's a lot of buffalo hunting and non-stationary living. And then in the southwest region we have the Pueblo and the Navajo Indians. So the European explorers, there was thousands of explorers, but only a few of them are extremely famous, and one of the most famous, at least to us, is Christopher Columbus, who was not the first to sail, but did discover or reach the American colonies, and then also Ferdinand Magellan and Sir Francis Drake. And these are just a couple of the famous ones. And now here is America's explorers. So the Americas was an attempt to reach the Asias, but instead they discovered this new land. And Spain had already gotten here, and they had conquered lots of the lower parts of the Americas, especially like the Mexico area. And so this picture is of their claims, or what they claimed was theirs. And so here France had a lot of this upper part, and then the middle Americas, and later on the Louisiana Purchase, where they sold that to the Americans, and then here British colonies was all along this coastline here, and then the Hudson Bay, which they all laid claim to. And so these were just most of the explorers who laid claim on the Americas. Is the Netherlands, France, Spain, Portugal, and England. So here are some of the early colonial settlements. So here we have Jamestown, Virginia, which was one of the first settlements in the British colonies, and then Boston, Massachusetts, which wasn't the very first, it was actually settled a while after, but it was one of the wealthiest and a very big city. And then here, Massachusetts Bay Puritans were a religious group who strictly believed in the Bible and didn't believe in the religious practices of the England colonists, or not all of them if they weren't in the Bible. And then here, where Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, they weren't all from there, but they went there because of religious freedom, so they were able to go there, and they believed in a lot more equality and fair rights for everyone, and believed that everyone had a little God in them. And then here in colonial leaders, John Smith was the leader of Jamestown, which was the first civilization. Sir Walter Raleigh tried to form Roanoke before its collapse and disappearance. And George Washington, as we all know, he was a very popular general and a leader in the American Revolution and helped win the war. And the Sons of Liberty were the very beginning of the American Revolution. It included multiple people who helped fight and revolt against the British rule and ultimately led to the American Revolution. And then here, Benjamin Franklin also had a very big impact in signing treaties and alliances, a lot of agreements throughout his life, and helped form the Declaration and the Constitution for the U.S. And then here, Thomas Jefferson was also a founding father, just like Benjamin Franklin, and he helped also form the Declaration of Independence. And that's all.